Sausage.
Hello, everyone. This is Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Marcus Nez, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This episode is all about Journey to the Savage Planet, a first person adventure game where you play a young explorer. Well, I mean, it could be an old explorer. I don't know your age. It's never specified how old you are. And, you're cloning yourself, you're dying, you're remaking yourself, and blah, blah, blah. It's all Mickey 17 and out here and whatnot, but it is a first person adventure game where you are sent to a planet that may or may not be so savage. And your goal is to explore it and scan it and make sure it is a good habitable planet for humanity. Because apparently, I don't think they went into specificities, but apparently, I'm guessing humanity fucked up Earth like humanity gonna do, and they need a new place to call home and eventually fuck up. Or this could even be a point where they've already fucked up Earth and they found a new place and they fucked that up, so we gotta find another new place. And it's just this cyclical thing of humanity fucking shit up and having to go find something else to fuck up. Because again, humanity gonna humanity. But you were sent to this planet by Kindred Aerospace, and lo and behold, them being the wonderful corporation they are, like a corporation going to do, they forgot to give you all your equipment. So you're going to have to craft it all yourself. And that is the essential gameplay loop of Journey to the Savage Planet. You go around exploring, scanning stuff, collecting resources, and upgrading yourself while doing what you do, following this loose narrative until beating the game in short fashion. It's a relatively short game. It took me 7 hours to complete it, well, while doing some side stuff as well. But to break it down from a gameplay standpoint, I look at Journey to the Savage Planet as a focused No Man's Sky. This doesn't help if you've never played No Man's Sky, don't know what No Man's Sky is. I would assume that that's fairly common knowledge. But the core gameplay of Journey to the Savage Planet is going around the environment, scanning everything you can see, flora, fauna, etc. And in doing that, you don't really get anything out of that outside of the pat on the back, yourself patting on the backy, where you are increasing your knowledge of the world. And you might learn some tidbits about creatures, what they're weak to, but it's not that in depth from a combat standpoint or anything. You'll get a gun very early on, but then you are collecting resources through either killing creatures or finding deposits of these various resources. I believe there are only 3 in the game: carbon, silicon, and aluminum. And then you use these to, again, increase your abilities or your weapons abilities. You will, in a very kind of Metroidvania light fashion, obtain new abilities through play and through completing certain missions that allow you to explore more of the world and open up new areas, which is very satisfying. It has a cheeky sense of humor. It's kind of got a bit of that satirical nature that Paul Verhoeven movies have, RoboCop, Starship Troopers, etc., with a lot of cheeky, over the top commercials that are selling ridiculous things like you a meat buddy, make a little buddy out of meat, or this, I don't know, blob of I don't know what that you can do things with, but to that point, it has a bit more of a crass, crude nature to it. So think maybe American Pie meets Paul Verhoeven, kind of. The humor is solid. It never got me laughing out loud, but I never rolled my eyes at it either, which is an accomplishment because I find a lot of attempts at humor in video games, especially to fall flat. And in this case, I thought it was amusing, sometimes a little too gross for my taste, but overall relatively amusing. And the narrative that is there of you being this singular explorer, or you can play with a friend in co-op so you can work together. But you being this singular explorer sent to this planet to explore it, figure out what is going on. Is there anything that might get in the way of humanity calling this their new home? I think that it does a good job of pushing you along, but giving you free reign to explore and the world being interesting enough. Because in that comparison to No Man's Sky is about quantity over quality, where you have thousands, if not millions, of planets, a whole universe to explore, but the planets themselves are fairly barren. There will be things to find and scan and discover, yes, and through that, you're able to name things, which is satisfying, but you're not discovering a whole lot of interesting aspects. And because it's all procedurally generated, there's no bespoke, oh, this was clearly designed for you to find and so on. It's just, again, quantity over quality. And Journey to the Savage Planet is focused on a singular planet with a handful of biomes. And because it's all designed, it feels much more crafted for you to play through and discover. And there's a much more rewarding nature to that because this was built by someone. And with that, they're able to again give you that Metroidvania feel where you are gradually exploring more of the world and discovering more of it. You get some nice traversal mechanics for a first person game that has a heavy reliance on platforming. The platforming feels pretty good. And when you get the grapple and are able to grapple around and then grind on these, they're not rails because they're living things. They're plants in the world, kind of. But when you have that ability, it's satisfying to find these chains where you can grapple and swing over multiple spaces and then grind and whatnot. There's a satisfaction to that overall traversal. And then getting the ability to explore more. You get these seeds in the world that allow you to, on designated points, again, it's all handcrafted. But on these designated points, you can throw these seeds at them and create new grapple points that allow you to explore new heights and so on. But there's also, while a lot of it is that core gameplay loop that it makes Journey to the Savage Planet fantastic podcast game. Because again, the narrative is very light. You only have to engage with it however much you want. You will have to follow the missions and so on and so forth, but you don't have to read any of the text if you don't want. The videos that you get when you return to your little base that serves very little purpose. Your base is basically just where you deposit your resources and then craft items, or if you die, you respawn there. So there is a Soulsian type of death mechanic in it where when you die, you are essentially recloned. Think most recently Mickey 17 with Robert Pattinson. When you die, they just reprint a new version of you. And I think in the narrative, they talk about how we can only do this 50 times. I don't know if that is some kind of actual gameplay thing where if you die over 50 times, you have to start over in a kind of Sifu thing. I have not played Sifu, but I believe you age every time you die and there's a hard cap. But when you die, you drop your resources because the resources you gain when you're out exploring, they don't get automatically sent back to your base. They only get deposited when you return to your base. And so when you die, your resources are dropped where you died, and then you have to go and collect them to not lose them permanently. Or if you die again before you do that, obviously they'll be gone forever. But the narrative is something that you don't really have to engage with. The videos that you get at your home base, you can watch them if you want, or you can just ignore them, do what you need to do while you're there, and leave before the video is even finished. And that makes it a great podcast game because you don't have to really engage with anything there outside of just that core gameplay loop of going around the world, exploring it, collecting resources, and so on and so forth. You'll want to probably wait a little bit just to collect everything. And there are certain missions, side missions that ask you to do a few things to increase your quote unquote rank so that you'll unlock more upgrades, later levels of upgrades. Because you get a double jump pretty early on, but there's a triple jump, and I think there's going to be even a quadruple jump. But on top of it, just having that, there's a little hint of Zelda in it, and specifically the boss fights. While the boss fights are not super challenging, they are very satisfying in their design. They reminded me of the Wind Waker specifically, but I say specifically in no way of saying it feels like the Wind Waker over all other Zelda games, but because the Wind Waker is one of two Zelda games I've actually finished. But you have these boss fights against these large creatures that really use the environment and you having to move around it and giving you these giant creatures with obvious weak spots on them that you are required to attack to defeat them. And while again, they're not super challenging and maybe not the most creative, they were a nice change of pace. It was nice to get something large scale to do every now and again. They were spread out well over the course of the short experience, and I liked doing them. I don't know what else there really is to say about it because it is, again, it's a very, very simple, straightforward game in the sense that what you're doing is you're sent to this planet, and then all you do is explore it more and more as you obtain new abilities. You scan things. When you first get to an area, the scanning is kind of boring just because you turn on your scanner and then you just scan everything. So when you first play the game, you're just scanning everything because everything's new to you. And when you get to a new area, you do the same thing and you're scanning a lot of stuff right from the start and getting all this new information for your little encyclopedia, whatever. But where I found the fun in scanning specifically is in the after point with all of that, where I'd be in an area that I scan a lot of stuff in at the get go. But then as I'm exploring it, I see something that looks different, that looks like something I've not seen before. And then I turn on the scanner, and if it is something new, there is a rewarding feeling to that of just noticing that while I've seen so much of this world and I've scanned so much, that I notice that this thing is different. This thing is new. And when I'm right, that felt good because it made me feel like I'm actually paying attention, that I'm actually immersed in the world. I'm noticing it. And I don't know. There's something about that I found very pleasant and ever so slightly rewarding to know that I was so immersed in the world that I realized that what I had just come across was something new. But that is the game. Go around, scan stuff, collect resources, upgrade your character, rinse and repeat, and that's pretty much it. The shooting feels all right. It has a pretty generous. You could probably turn it off if you want, and on PC maybe wouldn't want it, but a pretty generous lock on when you do the iron sights type of thing, left trigger to iron sights, but left trigger to kind of zoom in and do a little lock on to creatures. Creatures aren't all that difficult to deal with. It's not super challenging. There are plenty of these health plants around the world. But it's nice just being in the world. It's very lush and colorful, full of life, full of character. The biggest issue I would say with the game is that I play the Employee of the Month edition, which is the current gen version that is supposed to be 60 frames per second, better visuals, some in not improved, but some additional content, all the DLC, all the patches. And while that is for the most part true, I played it in performance mode. It did drop every now and again. And it seemed to be more area based, maybe, than on-screen action based, because it didn't drop when a lot of stuff was happening on screen. That wasn't when it would drop. It would drop when I was in specific areas. And it seemed like it happened more in later areas when I was exploring these tower areas and whatnot. It seemed to have more noticeable drops, which is by no means a game killer, but unfortunate that that was the case, because it's not like it's the most beautiful game. It has a nice style to it, but yeah, I really liked it. It was a fun time, and a good, chill, relaxing time with things to still explore, to discover, plenty of stuff for me to still do in it. There are also in improving your character, upgrading your stamina and your health. You have all these goo things to find and consume in the world, which is just another nice thing to have as a goal to go after. And you have a little kind of ping thing you can set out that will let you know where certain things are, and you can improve that over time as well with your upgrades and whatnot. But it's a solid game if you like exploring worlds, small spaces, collecting resources, crafting items, that jazz. And in that sense, you may be worried with the crafting and all that there are some survival mechanics. There's none of that. No having to worry about your temperature, your hunger, thirst. There's none of that stuff in here. It is just go around, explore, craft, have a good time. The end. Journey of the Savage Planet. Journey to the Savage Planet, that is. Yeah. That is going to do it for this episode of Attack the Backlog. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, a private Discord channel, along with some fancy Discord roles, or the random drop on the Patreon here or there, depending on your tier. Or you could just support me to support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. But for now, adios. Arrivederci. Bye bye.
It's go time. Go, Daddy.